Hey, welcome to PCMag Live. I'm Eddy. This is Sascha Segan. We're going to run through the 3 top tech headlines today. We're going to pull something really cool off the shelf here in PCMag Labs, and then we're going to answer one of your reader questions. We don't have a lot of time, so we're just going to jump straight into it and talk about Mt. Gox, which I hope is how that's pronounced. This is a Bitcoin exchange. How would you describe Mt. Gox?
It is a former Magic the Gathering card exchange, which was repurposed years later to be a repository and currency exchange for Bitcoins, showing how insanely amateurish the entire Bitcoin marketplace really is.
That is absolutely the most amazing thing. I feel like we should just move on right now, but there is actually news here. So this went out of business. Mt. Gox went out of business a couple of weeks ago, declaring bankruptcy, that they'd been the victim of fraud. Now hackers have gone in there and pulled out the Mt. Gox ledgers, and they're saying there's actually 951,000 unaccounted Bitcoins allegedly floating around. They hacked into the Mt. Gox CEO. They hacked into his blog and a couple of other social media platforms and released this information. It's kind of strange situation. What do you make of all this? Live
by the crazed libertarian hackers, die by the crazed libertarian hackers.
Oh, you prepared that. That's good.
What's happened here is that Mt. Gox, which seemed to be this amateurish setup anyway, did not protect itself from a known software flaw in Bitcoin, which enabled hackers to issue multiple withdrawal requests, have them appear to be one withdrawal request, and basically suck all the money out of Mt. Gox. But now here come these other hackers, vigilante hackers, who have looked at the Mt. Gox's ledger, and they say that they claim now that Mt. Gox is somehow holding 951,000 Bitcoins. What we don't know is whether Mt. Gox is holding 951,000 Bitcoins and perpetrating a massive multi-million-dollar fraud, or whether the original hackers faked Mt. Gox's ledger so that Mt. Gox didn't know the money was disappearing, and this ledger of 951,000 Bitcoins is completely wrong, and Mt. Gox is a victim, or any other questions at hand here. But what I think is most interesting here is that this is all going on outside of normal legal and banking channels. A bank that is not a bank and is not regulated is now being vigilanted by anonymous, unregulated hackers, and it's like this is a test of how financial institutions would work in a libertarian world. So let's see what happens.
It's very interesting that that they can even declare bankruptcy when they're not really operating within an established, economy. The whole thing is really weird to me. And 951,000 Bitcoins, that's millions of dollars, right?
Yeah,
it's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
So this is going to be one of the most interesting stories. We're going to have to keep following this one. But moving on from the crazy world of Bitcoin to the much saner world of archival data formats, Sony and Panasonic has teamed up to produce a 1 terabyte archival optical disc. It's the Blu-ray of all Blu-rays.
Well, they're not starting with the terabyte. They start in summer 2015 with a 300 gig disc, and then they have a technology path by which they can get to a terabyte, but they're not saying quite when. And this just sounds like the evolution of professional Blu-ray being used for storing large quantities of data, mastering video. It's not a home format. You can imagine that these discs are going to be very expensive individually. Like, I'm imagining they'll probably be like 50 bucks each as blanks.
They don't sound very user-friendly either. They're going to be double-sided, so if you were trying to watch one continuous 300 gigabyte file, you're going to have to flip it at one point.
Right, but the point is, for these archival data uses, this is going to be a much more stable, longer-lived, and easier to store format than tape, which a lot of people are using right now. Sony says this will have a 50-year lifespan as opposed to the 30-year lifespan of most tapes. Obviously, it has no moving parts, unlike tape, and the discs are very flat, so they can be stored very easily. I mean, we are in the creative professions, we are generating so much data right now that this is a really important question. But here's my question about this, which is that, up until digital media, we can still read written documents from 2,000, 3,000 years ago. If we're talking about 50 years now as the lifespan of our data, our society has become ephemeral. What will be remembered of us 500 years down the road?
50 years is the lifespan they're saying for this disc. So like you're saying, this doesn't really match up to things like codices or written tablets, for instance.
Or even books on paper,
Well, this is going to be a huge problem going forward as the digital world continues to become the regular world. And one person looking to solve that problem is Neil Young, who's going to be kickstarting a high-end MP3 is the wrong word, high-end digital audio player. He's going to be kicking this off in March 15th, later this month, and it's going to be a $400 player that's going to do high-res audio.
Neil Young's major problem is that digital man don't need him around anyhow. Neil Young has turned into this sort of weird elderly crank who is obsessed with super high resolution music formats, which have been tried and failed many times over the past 20 years. I don't know if you guys remember SACD, Super Audio CD.
I do remember
I don't know
SACD.
if you guys remember DVD audio. That was a competing format. Okay, even right now, there are audio stores selling music in FLAC. Okay, which is a high-resolution lossless codec. There are players out there like the iRiver, Astel, and Kern that play 24-192, which is this super high-resolution audiophile music. So you get the question of like, what problem is Neil Young trying to solve? And the problem seems to be he's crabby.
I think it's important to point out here that Neil Young is an enormous model train fan and has all sorts of crazy ideas about how to revolutionize that industry. I think this says a lot about Neil Young. Model trains, high-resolution audio.
Yeah, and I think there is now the possibility that Neil Young may be Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. You heard it here first.
We will have more on that controversy later on this week, I'm sure.
But Neil Young is influential enough that he's gotten Warner and Sony and Universal to say they're going to remaster for his brand new digital music format, which does nothing FLAC can't do, except it isn't FLAC. And Kickstarter, new digital formats, I just don't see why.
Well, we can all look forward to seeing how much we're going to have to pay for one of his triangular audio players later this month. But right now we're going to move on to a reader question. This one was sent to Jill Duffy, one of our analysts, and the reader asked, several months ago I inserted a DVD into my computer and got a pop-up saying that I only had a few region change options left. And he doesn't really want to go ahead with that. And what he's really curious about is this true for DVD players as well?
Right. DVDs are coded to regions so that movie companies don't have to change their business model. That is really the only reason. Basically, DVDs are designed to only play like in the Americas or Europe or China, so that movie companies don't have to release their films simultaneously worldwide.
Right.
The DVD players in computers can switch regions 5 times. It's not the 5th disc, it's the 5th switch. But beyond that, I know, Max, you've used some alternate DVD playing software, which really doesn't care what region it's in, right?
Yeah, I use VLC on my computer. I just, instead of using the built-in DVD player, I insert the disc, ignore the DVD player, and just go straight to the file tree. And I can watch as many movies as many times as I want from wherever in the world.
So it's relatively easy to hack your way around that region encoding. Set-top DVD players, on the other hand, are generally either locked to one specific region all the time, or they pay no attention and they're region-free. It is very easy to find region-free DVD players in the United States. You can buy them from Amazon. Just Google for region-free DVD player, and then you don't have to think about this region stuff at all ever again, and it's stupid.
I'm assuming that these cost a little bit more than your average DVD player?
A little bit, but not much.
All right, well, I hope that answered your question. If not, be sure to hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, or wherever if you have more questions or you need follow-up. So lastly, we're going to look at our one cool thing, which I was not using to look at this entire show, and this is, what is this, Sasha?
This is the new 8-inch Samsung Galaxy Tab Pro. Tab Pro, not Note Pro, because it doesn't have a pen, but this is a gorgeous 8-inch $400 Android tablet with a Snapdragon 800 processor and micro SD memory expansion, a 2560 by 1600 screen, kind of attractive fake leather back.
I think that's putting it. That's exaggerating. I
think.
This
is okay, but this is the state of the art in small Android tablets, and it's really the test in terms of, are people going to pay for an Android tablet what they would pay for an iPad mini? Because that's the price range Samsung is shooting at. And a lot of the specs here are better than the iPad mini, but it just becomes a question of, again, do people feel that the software is there for these Android tablets to give the equivalent experience?
Well, we're going to have to find out probably over the course of the next few years whether or not that'll really be true. So, well, thank you very much, Sasha, and thank you all for watching. So long.